Hi everyone, I'm Maimah and you're watching Breathe TV and I am your host. Today you're going to be in for a wonderful treat. I'm super excited to have some close friends with me today on the set. When you hear the words you have breast cancer or any kind of cancer for that matter, you literally stop breathing. It's stressful, it's scary, it's hard. And I'm going to ask you to walk through a meditation with me, a guided meditation that will get us in a space of embodying being in our breath, being in our heart space, and being able to share and listen and receive in a vulnerable but empowered position. Put your hands on your chest or on your belly, and you guys can repeat after me the following phrases. I embody love.
I embody love.
I embody light.
I embody light.
I embody peace.
I embody peace.
I am grounded.
I am grounded.
My breath is calm.
My breath is calm.
I am present in life.
I am present in life.
I am divine.
I am divine.
I am beautiful.
I am beautiful.
I am perfectly me.
I am perfectly me.
Thank you for doing that with me. I have some beautiful guests with me today who will be sharing their stories. They're women who I've known from months ago to over 16 years ago. They make me so proud to call them sisters and friends. Jessie in the middle, Tamika on the left, and Dana on the right. Tamika, you know I love you dearly, but I've never really told you all the reasons why. You're so brave, I want you to share with the guests, those who are watching, who you are, your diagnosis, and what you do for a living with Cervivor.
I adore you, and I am so grateful not only just for your friendship, but your presence in this cancer space, right? And in the world in general. So in 2001, when I was 25 years old, I was diagnosed with cervical cancer. And, even though I look very young, it was before social media and Zoom and these ways for us to instantly connect together. And when cancer came in, it just turned my world upside down, if that's even an accurate description. So diagnosed at 25, had a radical hysterectomy, lost my fertility. I'm grateful that I didn't die, but it felt like a part of me died when I lost my fertility. And I've never been a quitter, but I had to really figure out how to get back to who I was. But what I learned on the journey is that it wasn't necessarily about who I was, it was who I was becoming. And so part of that was founding a nonprofit for cervical cancer. And it hasn't been easy, but I am going to talk because I still have breath, right? So I'm able to do so, and so many others, unfortunately, are not.
Yeah, I want to come back to your story because it's really powerful, Tamika, what you went through. And at such a young age as well. We're talking today about the intimacy issues around cancer, things around sexuality and losing your ability to not just procreate, but your body parts. Dana, can you share how you help women and those who are metastatic and what you've done to carve a space out to honor them and make them feel bold and to share their everything in a way that helps them to own their bodies after having mastectomies?
Much like Tamika, I was diagnosed with breast cancer at the age of 27 in 2010. And it was life-altering in so many levels. I was 27 with a very aggressive form of breast cancer. I consider myself definitely one of the lucky ones for catching it as early as I did. We weren't living in a world of social media or connection online that we're living in today. So when I was diagnosed, I was immediately throttled into this world that I felt was designed for my grandmother, having conversations about if I was able to keep my breasts or not, what my options were. I was engaged to be married in just 3 months when I received my diagnosis. If I wanted to have children, if I didn't want to have children. Being diagnosed in 2010 we weren't talking about young women with breast cancer. We weren't present. We weren't in awareness campaigns. I honestly didn't even know that young women got breast cancer. When my doctor told me I was 0.01% of the annual diagnoses, I knew it was very, very rare, but in reality, 10% of breast cancer diagnoses are done under the age of 40 years old. That's a pretty massive number, and we just weren't being represented. So I set out to change how we were looking at mastectomy and to really try to change the conversation. And I created a lingerie line called AnaOno, where we like to call it boob inclusive. So we say 2 boobs, 1 boob, no boobs, or new boobs. We have you supported. And that's because all chests and all surgery outcomes are so incredibly different. And all I knew was that nobody understood what I was doing when I created the lingerie line, because I wanted to still feel sexy. I wanted to still feel feminine. And people didn't understand why I wanted those things as a cancer patient. And as a part of those conversations, I realized I had to talk about sex and intimacy, because that was so vastly impacted when you're looking at this mutilated body back in the mirror, and your hair is gone and your eyebrows are gone and your breasts are gone, and your lady bits don't work anymore because of menopause and the chemotherapy and the medications. And it just had such a profound impact on my life that I wanted to open up a safe space for other people to have a conversation about it. And Maimah, the work that you've been doing through this last decade as well has been so incredibly impactful for young women and the community of which you serve, and we all serve together. And I'm just so grateful to be here and get to share a little bit of perspective from that story.
Well, you didn't tell the guests about your New York Fashion Week. So share a bit about that, because that's so badass. I mean, it gives women a platform to be on the stage at one of the biggest stages in the world and make their intimacy issues, like walk into that and say that I'm still a woman, I'm still strong, I'm still beautiful, and they walk the runway. And it's just such an empowering thing. Can you share how you began that and what you've accomplished in just a short amount of time?
Yeah, our first runway show at New York Fashion Week was in 2017, co-hosted with my very dear late friend, Champagne Joy, who founded an organization, #Cancerland. And what was so impactful about that first show was that I was answering these questions all the time. Why do you have intimates? Why are they different? Why do people that don't have breasts want bras? It was just all of these crazy questions. And so I knew that what we needed to do was start to change the conversation. And we raised money for stage 4 metastatic breast cancer research. I had a feeling that we had to show the world what breast cancer actually looked like. Again, because we were being showered by all of these happy women jumping up and down with smiles on their face, with pink boas and pink tutus. And I never experienced that moment. I never really experienced that happy and joyful moment, bathed in pink paraphernalia. And so I said to the producer of the show that I was going to show the world what breast cancer looked like. And the producer said to me, well, you can't show any nipples because we're going to be dinged for nudity and we'll be removed from the CFDA board, and we can't do that. And I said, don't worry, you won't see any nipples. And there we were. Our show went viral online at the New York Times overnight. It was just something that the world hadn't seen before. And since 2017, we've raised over $500,000 for stage 4 metastatic breast cancer research. We've had shows that have highlighted all metastatic breast cancer patients, nearly 30 metastatic breast cancer patients. Today, more than half of our models have passed away from breast cancer that are just in our New York Fashion Week shows. And the realities of this is that we want to show that you are strong, you are beautiful, you are breathing, you are alive, but you are also dying of your disease. And this is a very important conversation that we need to shine a light on, because we believe if you can shine a light on something that you're very scared of, or you're afraid of, or you're fearful of, it takes the mystery away. It takes it out of the shadows, and we can have real conversations to impact the lives that we need impacted. And those are the ones that are living with the terminal version of breast cancer.
Thank you, Dana. That was beautiful. So Jessie, you help women as an oncology clinical educator to understand and deal with many things around cancer, but you focus on the sexual health and intimacy issues. Can you share a bit about what you do for patients? And I'll go back to Tamika and have her share more about her story, and Dana as well.
I am an oncology nurse educator. I am an oncology certified nurse. And as I am taking care of patients, there is one objective within the care plan that's never addressed fully, and that is sexuality. My project that I am doing right now, I'm writing up a dissertation. I am a candidate, a PhD candidate, and I have dedicated my work on the topic of sexuality. And if you can hear it in my voice, I am passionate about this topic. And it is because it is almost like taboo. Currently now, within my profession, this is my passion. We need to talk about human beings, women, born as sexual beings. I am trying to, through my work and my dissertation, have a platform where we can say we now have a standardized treatment to address sexuality, and within this space, women's sexuality.
I just think there should not be a taboo around things, nor a sense of shame. No one causes cancer. And, when Tamika and I met years ago and we're talking, the things you share with me as a woman that, you're young and then you have your body parts altered or removed. And so those are your sexual organs. Can you share, Tamika, what you went through if you're comfortable?
Yeah, totally. My life is an open book. So I talk about it from the rooter to the tutor. And, I'm glad we're talking about this because I like to say I survived cancer, so I at least deserve a really good orgasm. That's the least I could get out of all of this. But yes, we need to talk about it. So Jessie, I hope, because we know that doctors, nurses are uncomfortable talking about it. Patients are uncomfortable talking about it. But if we don't talk about it, then that conversation never happens. Through it all, even when we are not feeling our most sexual self, we still want to be intimate. And it's not always about penetrative sex. Coming from the cervical cancer space, we have women who've had their vagina removed. Some have had their vagina and their anus removed. So there's no penetrative sex in that way. But there's other ways to have intimacy and to be intimate. There are women who've gone through a cervical cancer diagnosis and their vaginas have completely closed up. And I don't care if you're in your 20s, your 30s, your 40s, or your 60s. I mean, I plan on being intimate until I leave this earth.
Yes, girl.
My advice is, if you can't verbally say what you want to say to a clinician, you need to email them. You need to write it on a piece of paper, hand it to the nurse, do whatever, because I think you've gone through, or I know you've gone through so much. And what's worse is wanting this other part of your life to be fulfilled, and then cancer's also taken that away too.
When Kat was diagnosed, and I remember I called you to talk about her and what she was going through, she learned she had cervical cancer. She was mid to late 30s. And there were some tough choices to make, right? I mean, you find out in your prime that you have this disease, and then the options are to remove your vagina, your anus, your ovaries. The other option, once that happens, is you have to have a bag to use for pooping and peeing, I'll be honest. And, she was a yogi, and it was a tough choice for her to make, right? Because first of all, no one really talked to her about that they could happen to her. So she saw the pains that she was having as just, heavy cramps or whatever. And once we found out, it was too late. And I remember having conversations with Kat about her saying, I want to have a baby. And I remember getting into arguments with her saying, if you don't remove your body parts, you won't be here for a baby. And telling my sister that was one of the most difficult things I've ever had to do. And then, she just didn't know that if you don't do this by this time, then there's no going back. And we had those conversations until almost at the end. So I really want to address the things that we don't talk about. Because someone's watching right now who may be having cramps or pain or whatever, or having a decision to make about moving her body parts. And some women opt to just not do those things, and then it's too late, and then they've lost their lives. What was it like, and how can you help those who are maybe in that position right now?
So first I would say that I know it feels so lonely, and you are not alone, but I know it feels lonely. And sometimes you just cannot see yourself on the other side, especially not whole. And I'm not just talking about the physical toll of having organs removed. I'm talking about the emotional impact of cancer too. It's a trauma. So one, you've got to listen to your body. I was not up to date on all my cervical cancer screenings, and so you got to put your feet up in the stirrups. No one wakes up and says, it's Pap Day. Oh my God, I just love Pap Day. Let me put my feet up in those stirrups and have somebody look in my coochie, and then bring somebody else in, have them look at my coochie too. It's so much fun. It's not, but it's something that we just have to do. We have a culture now where, you know, everybody's making sure that, did you get your mammogram? Did you do this? Did you do that? And it took time to get there. Even though we still have women who fall through the cracks, we have to do the same thing with cervical cancer. We have to ask our sisters, you know, whether it's your soul sister, your real sister, your work sister, whomever, we have to say, are you taking care of yourself, right? We have an issue in this country with work culture where, you know, people are thinking, do I take time off to take care of myself? So we have to have a better work culture. And I don't know many people who want to get a pap smear in the middle of the day on their lunch break and come back all juicy from a pap test. I'm just keeping it real. You asked me to keep it real, so I'm going to keep it real, Maimah. We have to have different dynamics that happen so that people can take care of yourself. You know, at Survivor, our theme this year that we kicked off in January for Cervical Cancer Awareness Month is take care of you in 2022. And it's not just your cervix, it's your whole body. You know, I'm going to put myself out here. I'm almost 30 days behind on my mammogram, and I know better. And it's on my list. I'm making that happen next week, right? And I'm lucky I have, you know, the radiology center following up, harassing me with text messages and everything else. They even sent me a message on Instagram. Yes, I'm connected to them there. But we get busy and we don't put ourselves first. It's so cliche, but you've got to put your oxygen mask on first. When I lost my cervix and the connective tissue and the uterus and everything that I felt made me a woman, I thought that no one would ever love me. No one would want to be with me because I couldn't have children. I remember thinking like, I'm really good at sex, right? And then you don't want to say that because there's this stigma associated with cervical cancer. So that I felt like if I said that, people would automatically say these things. And then I'm like, screw that. Like, I'm a woman and sex is a natural part of life. And cervical cancer came into my life, this happened, and it sucks and it's awful. And so I got to make it do with what I have. And that meant having conversations that were uncomfortable, whether it was for me, my doctor, the nurse, whomever, a partner. I remember when I started dating again, I said, wow, I'm going to have this date. And am I just going to jump out like, hello, I'm Tamika. I can't have babies. The top third of my vagina is missing. Do I have those conversations? You know, and I did have those conversations. Now I tell people, wait to see if that person's gonna stick around and if they matter to have those conversations. But you really have to find out what works best for you. I'll never hide who I am. And also now it's too easy to look people up. And plus I tell what I call all my coochie business. But we have to have conversations because life is worth living, whether you've had cancer or not. If you've had cancer, life is even worth more living. And that means living in your best version of yourself. That means living in that sexual euphoria of knowing that you were taken there, whether someone takes you there or you take yourself there, because you don't need a partner. You can take yourself there too, okay? Sometimes it's even better when you take yourself there.
Jessie, so, you know, Tamika just talked about all this coochie and rooter and tutor, and now we're all sweating and like, you know, fluffed up. How do you help women to go from that sense of, you know, as Tamika said, isolation, that fear, that shame, that, oh my God, I'm missing this and that. Helping a patient go from that place of vulnerability and fear to being empowered is what you do every day. How do you get them to cross that bridge from being afraid of the coochie conversation or breast to embracing it?
Absolutely. So I would tell you, even nurses are afraid to talk about sex. And what I do is educate both nursing and patients that we care for. Sex is natural. We are naturally sexual beings. So let's first embrace it. And let's go back to ancient Bible times or even religious. You have the Christian Bible that talks about sex. Even the Quran and other religions, their books, the very, I would say, primitive writings were about sex. It's important. It's who we are. It's actually letting the patient know it is okay to talk about it. Let's talk about it so that we know where to go and help you. We know what it is that you need. So just like Tamika was talking about, yeah, you had the persona that, yes, I am good with sex. I love intimacy. Why take that away from you, Tamika? Now let's find ways so that you can continue to be Tamika. Because that's who you are. You are Tamika, and Tamika loves sex. That is okay, Tamika. It is a good feeling, and it is okay for you to try and find that again. So I just want to let every woman with cancer know that cancer does not have to rob you of who you are. We have to educate patients, we have to educate nurses so that they can feel comfortable to assess patients within that sexual health aspect of care, because that is what's missing. I'll tell you now, we don't do a good job as far as health care to assess and address sexual health. We're more focused on treating the cancer. You need this medication. Let's treat this cancer. But there's another part, another part of us that's not being cared for. So how do I help women like Dana, like Tamika, and everyone else out there? Just opening my mouth and letting you be comfortable speaking with me and educating and providing resources. Where are you now? Where do you need to be? Let me help you provide. Let me provide that to you so that you can get that help.
You forget about your body and you're like, wait a minute, I'm a beautiful sexual being. I'm a divine goddess, feminine warrior. And then you lose your boob or your cooch and you're like, you forget that you had sex and you want to have sex. And so Dana has this fabulous, sexy lingerie line. Tell us about what made you design that, because you're just epic, and you help women who are feeling, they've lost their breasts, maybe other parts, and you just get them on the runway, and it's sexy as hell, and I love it. Can you share with the viewers more about AnaOno Intimates?
So much of this that I want to unpack with Jessie and Tamika is just like my head is spinning with all of these nuggets, because we're all experiencing a very similar thing in different ways. And the propeller to me creating the lingerie line was the fact that I could not physically look at myself in the mirror. I could not see the person looking back at me who, I kind of called myself the mutilated Barbie doll. My tits were chopped off, my hair was gone, my eyebrows were gone, the eyelashes were missing, my expanders were in my chest. I called them like my SpongeBob square boobs. It was just, you're going through this like complete rebuilding process. It was years before I looked at myself in the mirror. And I'm with my fiance who stuck it out with me. I gave him all of the get out of jail free cards when we were engaged that, he didn't sign up for this. I was 27 years old. Now we can't have children. Now we can't have sex. Now I can't, I don't have breasts anymore. I don't have nipples. And it was just this very physical, as much as it was emotional, right, Tamika? I mean, it's a head game all day, every day. But when you're looking at like absolute destruction in the mirror every single day you get out of the shower, it's hard to avoid. The only thing I could really wear was a sports bra or nothing at all. And that was not really what I felt sexy in. You only feel so sexy in a sports bra. If you're hot and you're sweaty and you're out of the gym and you all just worked out, like that's some hot shit. But if you're like, hey, I just got home from work, let's go have a nice dinner, and you're like ripping off and you got like a neon green sports bra, like nothing would cover the destruction that I needed to hide, not for him, but for myself. And I even went as far, I literally have a tattoo around my mastectomy scars in the shape of a demi bra, because I could not find a piece of sexy intimates to hide and mask what I was not confident with. And I really believe that you can't love somebody else unless you love yourself. And it propelled into the space where I was like, wow, this is really about my bra. Even though it's so much more than a bra, this is the intimate moment I have with myself every morning. And the fact that I can't adorn this body with something beautiful when I feel anything but was that reason why I created AnaOno, because I wanted to feel beautiful. I wanted to feel pretty in these moments when I felt gross and disgusting and broken and sad. And that was like my healing process. And so, my first bras that I designed were like these very sexy, intimate bras, because that's what I wanted so desperately in my life that was taken away from me. Just one more thing that cancer took away from me. And, these stories have evolved so much over time. And I'm 12 years out and I'm just adapting and learning new ways to love this body. Like, it has not come quick for me. It has not come easy. It takes a lot of work. And then you layer on the menopausal symptoms. I mean, it was just, there were points of time when I first created AnaOno, and, the press and the media would say, oh, well, how did you start this? And what did you do? And I would say, like, I couldn't have sex with my husband. Like, I didn't feel confident enough in the bedroom to show my body to somebody who loved and cared for me. And my very dear, loving, caring husband said to me, he goes, when are you going to stop telling people about our sex life?
My husband, same.
Right? And you know what my response was? Is I said, the second that somebody else starts. Yeah. Because somebody has to be brave enough to say, this is not right. This is where we have to stand up for ourselves. And Jessie, what you're doing, it's the dismissive factor of what patients face in the medical room. I will tell you, for 8.5 years, I was given the pat on the back to say, you're a cancer patient. You are lucky that you're alive. Go deal with it. As I sat on the tables and I cried to these professionals, just begging for one solution that would allow me to feel like myself during the day, because my lady bits were so broken and it was ruining my marriage. And it didn't matter how many times I cried in those rooms, I still walked out that door with a pat on the back and saying, this is your life now. And that's not enough. You're right. You deserve better. We deserve better.
I agree with you. Absolutely. I've heard it time and time again as a clinical nurse working within the oncology space. And it's like, no, this is not okay. This is not okay. And doctors, they're busy with other patients and they really don't want to talk about it. They don't.
Well, that's why you're all here today. That's why we have your voices, because it's so important. I mean, you guys, what you've been talking about is just such a, it's breaking the taboo. It's busting through that ceiling. I mean, I know that anybody who's watching now who's affected by cervical cancer or breast cancer, who's felt intimacy issues, they know where to go now, because you three are just amazingly open and epic. What is one last word you want to share with someone who's listening, watching, Jessie, around how to be empowered as they deal with cancer and issues around intimacy and sexuality?
It's understanding that we are sexual beings and that it is okay to talk about our experiences. It is okay.
It's okay. I love it.
It is okay.
It's okay. Dana?
I would just share that it's okay, and it isn't always easy, and that's okay. You're going to have ups, you're going to have downs, you're going to have doubts. You might go, be sexually exploitive, and you might totally shut down, and you might do both of those things at different times in your life, and that's okay. I think that we put a lot of pressure on ourselves to be something or do something or have something, and we can really take it one day at a time. And I love this theme. That's okay. I love that.
Tamika?
With the theme that it's okay, and it's okay not to be like everyone else. Be open to new positions and new things. Also, be your own best advocate. Find a way to use your voice and say what you want. There's power in it. And this is not the time for you to say no to yourself. This is the time for you to say yes to yourself, whatever that looks like.
I love that. Say yes to you. It's okay, and say yes to you. I think I want to add that it's okay, but it's okay to be where you are when you're there, and to love yourself when you're there. and to remove the labels when you're there. So just, be where you are. It's okay. And just love yourself in this moment, because the moment that we're in is all that we have. Well, I love you guys so much. And thanks to our viewers. I hope you were as titillated and excited and inspired and hopeful, and that you know that it's okay to be as you are, where you are, when you are, and that you are loved, that you're beautiful, that you're sexy, you're adored, and just live your best life, because this moment is all that we have. Until next time, I am your host, Maimah, and you're watching Breathe TV. Bye for now.